live.
Boom.
Boomski.
Welcome to Recovering Addict. I don't know why I'm doing this when you own this. So
I guess we want to tell kids, teenage kids, right?
yeah,
Junior high kids?
I just meant the introduction.
Oh yeah.
That's your part.
Well, that's your part too, though, because we want to tell kids,
Yeah.
don't do drugs, kids.
Very true. Very true. Should I do another introduction?
Sure.
Okay.
Pay attention out there.
All right. My name is Albert Hunt. I've been a corrections officer with Weber County Sheriff's Office for about 3 years.
Nice.
Yeah, I have a lot of time under my belt.
That's a lot.
No, no, it's
I
not.
got underwear older than that.
You should change your underwear.
I know.
But LT,
Yep.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Stands for Leonard Ted.
Leonard Ted.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about yourself.
Oh, man. Born in Utah. I'm 44 years old. Had a rough childhood. Grew up in a dysfunctional baby boomer house, baby boomer parents who had shit roll downhill from, the depression aged children.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the 60s and stuff, anything was okay, beat your wife, and we don't talk about nothing. And so my dad lived at a boys ranch where my grandpa housed these troubled youth. And he would stage fights in the backyard. He was extremely abusive, more abusive than the truth has been let out, which has made my dad the person he still is in his mid-60s, very traumatized. But, mental health and all that stuff has come a long way, and he wasn't able to find the tools to deal with it, so never really learned how. Luckily, whatever rolled downhill from him to me and the dysfunction that I had to go through and the trauma that I experienced as a child, I was able to get the help I needed because the anonymity thing went away. To be in recovery now is kind of cliche. And so that's a little bit about my childhood with the roughness.
Does your dad still have fights in the backyard?
No, that was his dad.
Oh,
That's the guy I'm named after, Leonard. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Grandpa Buck.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
no, thank you. Yeah, I'd have that trauma if I was in one of those fights. I still have trauma if I get in fights.
Yeah, I don't like fighting.
Yeah, me
I don't
neither.
like getting punched in the face.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Not the funnest.
Me either.
That's not the funnest. Okay. Right, you've suffered through some trauma. You suffered through all that stuff. Tell us more about that.
Do you want to hear about the addiction, or do you want to hear some more of the childhood trauma? So my parents were divorced when I was 7.
Oh, okay.
My dad could not hold a job to save his life. He's been the victim his whole life. He plays that whole victim card, right?
Sure,
His whole
sure.
life still. So we move in with my grandma, and we live in a trailer park here in Roy, Utah. And that's where I live until I'm about 13. And it's always just chaos and fights. We never feel secure. We never feel like we have a home. And I'm being raised by my grandma. Well, my dad is pretty much an absent father, though his physical presence is there. At age 13, he marries another lady and moves us to Michigan. So at age 13, I moved to Michigan, and my dad introduces me to my teacher, holds me back a grade too. So I'm in 7th grade for the second time because whatever logic he had there. He introduces me to my teacher, and my teacher says, "Hello, Ted." And I'm like, "Ted? My name's LT,"
Yeah.
And my dad just kind of gives me the go with it. And so I went with it. So in Michigan is my alter ego, is who I consider the crazy guy, right? Ted.
Sure.
I said, "Oh, you want to see Ted? Game on."
Well, here he is.
Yeah. And so I left the house 2 years later. I worked at McDonald's. I bought my 10th grade science teacher's car, and I left. I lied on some stuff, got my own apartment, and I was living on my own, right? I tell people I moved out, but in reality, I was a child, and I ran away. And I haven't been home since. During that time, from 15 to 18, I'm taking any drug offered to me. I'm doing crank, I'm doing acid, I'm doing, you name it. I'm drinking every single night. I get caught a couple times just with some stupid petty theft. I stole I think a carpet cleaner because I wanted to get my money back in my apartment, and stuff like that. And I got caught, ended up in jail. And if you would have seen me at 17, I looked like a baby. Right?
Really?
Yeah, I'm a late bloomer with the beard and
Baby face.
I look like it, I'm little, And so I'm in this jail in Michigan, do I think a day and a half there, get out, get caught again for some petty theft, get on probation, did a couple little days in jail, nothing big, just the holding take. Maybe it was only overnight, maybe. And it scared the crap out of me. And so my brother, he lives here in Utah. He calls me and he says, "You get your ass home right now." And so I went and talked to my probation officer. He said, "Hey, my brother said I can go live with him in Utah." She said, "Good riddance. Don't come back to Michigan."
Yeah.
But nothing changed when I came back to Utah. And so by this time I'm 18.
Did your brother kind of have those issues as well? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, he's my half brother. So he's 9 years older than me.
Okay.
My dad and his dad are different. But he was raised by my dad in his early childhood when my dad was extremely abusive to him physically, like, the old Grandpa Buck style.
Yeah.
And so my brother experienced that kind of stuff from that side of my dad, which my dad treated me and my sister differently, in a different type of neglectful, weird, I don't know, undescribable kind of way. And so my brother, he's a good, hardworking cowboy, iron worker, metal worker, and he's like, "Get out here and get you a job, and we're gonna set you straight." And we drink beer, and that's it, that kind of stuff.
So when you came back to Utah,
Mm-hmm.
it was the same, just like as you were out in Michigan. It wasn't because your brother wasn't going through all this drug stuff himself, right?
Nope.
He tried to get you a job, tried to get you stable, and you
Yes.
just
And I continued to party.
Yeah.
My goal was to get as many girls as I could possibly get, notches on the belt type thing, do as many drugs as I could possibly do, live as crazy as I could. And I think out of all my friend set, I was always the crazy one. I was the one that would jump off the highest buildings. I was the one that would go the most extreme. I would do I would always talk and instigate things, right? And I look back on it now, and it was obviously a cry for attention because I didn't, whatever, psychology, I didn't get the attention I thought as children we should get. And so I'm just trying to get attention by being the craziest in the whole group. Are you going to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. And so nothing changes when I get back from Michigan, and I start doing drugs. I start partying, and I'm doing any drug you pass in front of me until I get introduced to meth. And once meth hit, no other drug mattered. I didn't care about drinking. I didn't care about smoking weed. It was meth alone. And I want to go as fast as I can. I want to stay awake as long as I can. And I'm a real entrepreneur type person.
Sure.
My mind is always racing on how to dig, market, do things better, figure things out, and I got this digger mindset, right? Really high energy. Go ahead.
And meth just enhanced that.
Not that it enhanced it. I think it redirected it
Okay.
to criminal lifestyle. Because I used my gifts and my abilities and my silver tongue, right, to be a criminal. I was being chased by a bounty hunter, a Bell's bondsman. I went to jail when I was like 21, 22. And I bailed myself out of the Weber County Jail on 12th Street with my friend's check, who was serving in Iraq or Afghanistan at the time. I can't remember where he was there, but he was in the Army. And I stole a checkbook, and I cashed myself, and I wrote a check to bail myself out of jail. Which, if you know anything about Bell's bondsmen, they don't accept cash, or they don't accept checks, which shows my silver tongue devil abilities, right? And so the Bell bondsman gets a hold of me because it was his employee that accepted the check, and he's chasing me. And I'm like, F you, catch me if you can. And I literally had run from house to house. He's like 2 houses behind me. And I'm putting on army clothes, camouflage clothes that I ripped out of my cousin's dad's closet through one of my things. And my plan was to get on one of the trains and ride it to Vegas. And I had somebody that was going to pick me up from there. Luckily, my mom had... because the bell bondsman's calling everybody, right? So I end up just about to the train station. My brother calls me. "You mother this and that. You better thank Mom. She just paid that guy off." And he stopped chasing me. And then I was like, "Oh, cool. So now I can just start doing drugs again." Right back to crazy meth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I can't
And the meth addiction's horrible.
imagine.
It grabs you and turns you into somebody you do not want to be. You don't even know you have the ability to be the person that meth will make you. When it comes to lying, stealing, cheating, robbing, you become an evil monster. The best way I can describe meth and you got to spend some time with it, right? You got to get a couple months or into the addiction.
Yeah.
And you're holding hands with a demon. And this demon's whispering in your ear, "Let's do this. Let's rob that." We would have guys come over to the house, young kids, early 20. I was young at the time too. Okay, I guess I should say novice and inexperienced with meth, and didn't realize what they were getting into when they started doing drugs with me. We would get them spun out on meth, take the meth away, act like we couldn't get more, watch them pass out because they're dope sick, And when somebody's dope sick, like this guy was here earlier saying, you can't wake up.
Mm-hmm.
When he's dope sick, we steal the speakers out of his car. We do whatever. We kind of rob him a little blind right there, right under his nose. He gets in his car, still dazed, goes home, sleeps a couple days, wakes up, still hasn't paid attention to what's going on. And by the time he realizes his stuff's stolen, he thinks it's somebody else or at Walmart or somewhere else and doesn't even realize it was us that did it. And we would do this to people quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Meth is a thing that's going to take you and turn you into a person your parents hate, your society hates. The only thing we deserve is to be, jails have their place, right? They are there to discipline criminals, and they should be disciplined because I don't care if you're on drugs or not, you are responsible for your actions. And I got what I deserved, a second-degree felony, because later on I committed a burglary, whole thing come down, and the cops caught me, and, blah, blah, blah. And I got a second-degree felony, ended up in the Weber County Jail, and I did about a year in there, and then I did 4 months in the UCCC. But some ugliness to gel and to turn you into the person you don't want to be. I handed a meth pipe to an 8-month pregnant woman who sat and smoked meth while she's justifying why it's okay to smoke meth with a baby in her belly that's a month from being born. That's one time in my life that still to this day, like, it gets me. That is a horrible thing I've done, and I passed it to her. You know what I mean?
Did she pay you for that? Or
No,
were
we
you
were
just
sitting
like,
in a
"Here you
circle. We were just sitting in a circle getting high.
go"? Wow.
It's horrible. It's going to make you do things you don't want to do. It's going to turn you into a monster you don't want to be. It's going to make you a person you don't even realize that you could be. You know, you've heard that saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you can become on meth, and you don't want to know.
And unfortunately, you got to live with that, right? Like you said, for the
Rest of your life.
rest of your life. Which I don't want to call it a good thing, but in your case, it might be a good thing because, right, not going to do that again. Don't want to be in that circle, giving the pipe to the 8-month
No.
pregnant year old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that girl makes me think of, well, what happened to her? What happened to that child when it was born?
Right.
And this is 20 years ago, because I'm 44 now, right? This is way in my past. And I have another stint with addiction that we'll get to here in a second. But that kid would probably be 22 years old. He may be in jail right now. He may be dead. It may not have been born. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just the stuff that you have to think about when you're alone and the lights are off. It's trauma. And you bring it on yourself when you decide to take that first drug. It's a lie at first. It seems fun. Your friends think it's fun, and it lies to you. And then when you take it, you wake up a few months later, and you don't realize where it's taken you. My advice to young people today is to not do drugs. 100% abstinence. And take it from me because I had to learn this the most hard way out there, right? If I did not do those drugs, who knows? I could be better off than I am now. I don't know. Maybe I'm better off because I did them.
Yeah, we can all say that about things,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
The what if.
I've never had a second-degree felony, right? But we have those things that make us the way we are, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yours was drugs, but now you have recovering addict,
Mhm.
right? Spreading the word, getting news out to people, trying to make a difference in lives, right? Don't want to do drugs,
No.
but you have turned it into such an amazing thing from your experience,
Agreed.
which is amazing.
I'm a Christian, so I believe in Romans 8:28.
Okay.
God uses all things for good.
Yeah.
To those who love him, right? And are called according to his purpose. All the stuff in my life, like my son in 2017, his head was crushed by a UTV. I couldn't imagine how that was going to be good in my life. Watching my son die in my arms and choke on his own blood with his eye hanging out. In the meantime, I'm an alcoholic. Okay, this is later in life. So after my meth addiction, I get out of the NUCCC. I'm scared straight. I don't realize that. I just thought, okay, whoa, I screwed up, and I had a little bump in the road with meth addiction. I start cleaning up my life. I get a job. I work hard. I'm an entrepreneur type mentality. I'm a good right-hand man. So I hook up with this construction guy. Me and him take his company, grow it to the next level. I'm working hard. I buy a house. I marry my wife who's upstairs. We have a couple kids. And in my and then in 2010, okay, God, you want to see God in my life? I'm a second-degree felon. Meth addictions, all this on my record. I get hired by the United States Air Force. I end up with a secret clearance, and I'm working on F-22s when they first get here to Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, can your life turn around after drugs and alcohol? Yes. And can you be tricked into not understanding what addiction is? That's why you don't play with it to begin with. Start drinking by the time I'm 34. It turns into a pint a night. I'm blacking out on the weekends. 2017, my son, he was 9 years old at the time. UTV comes, flips, crashes. I run out there, and I had just taken, it's noon, and I had just taken a couple shots of whiskey because I'm an alcoholic. And I run out there. The machine's tipped over on its side. He's laying there choking on his blood. His eyes dang near hanging out of his head. And I don't know what to do but yell like the movies. Stay with me. And I'm screaming at him, stay with me, thank God. My sister happened to be there. Crazy chain of events that happened in this day. Life flight, we end up at Primary Children's. He's in there for 2 months. They take off his skull. At one point, the doctor says it's time to fix his face because his face is fractured, his jaw's broken. All this is crushed. He's crushed from ear to ear all the way through, and his head kind of just popped like a grape. And his bones started healing that way. And the doctor said, hey, we got to fix his face. And for us to fix his face, I need to put a trach and I got to put a feeding tube in him. And we're like, okay. And he's like, that's going to sustain life in this vegetable. This weekend, you and your wife need to go and talk about pulling the plug on this kid. The heaviest weight I've ever felt in my entire life that weekend. And guess what I'm doing? Guess what piece of shit I am at this point? The Ronald McDonald House, awesome place, right? They put us up in there because it's a trauma. Ronald McDonald takes care of you in these traumatic places, right? We're living in the Ronald McDonald House, which is this amazing thing. I'm sneaking alcohol in there, and I'm getting drunk every night. They're giving us this news, and I'm going back to I'm hitting liquor stores on the way from the hospital back to Ronald McDonald House. Imagine what the fear my wife's feeling as I'm blacking out, getting pissed off drunk, belligerent drunk, while my son's a mile up the road in the hospital. Addiction will turn you into the biggest piece of shit you never thought you could be. And that was me. So we go back that next Monday, and these are the doctors that popped into the room that you don't see because they're way up the chain of smartness, The doctor comes in and pinches my son on his trap. And my son, about a minute and a half later, goes, little twitch. And he goes, let's give this little guy a chance. And I about fell, hit the floor. 2 years after that, I continued to drink. Because of that, I gave myself the justification, the excuses I need to take off anything that was holding me back to drink as much as I wanted to. And I was blacking out drunk every single day for the next 2 years. My son comes home with a feeding tube. My wife's taking care of him. My house is in complete disarray. Alcohol destroyed who I was. Because when I worked on Hill Air Force Base, I won all these awards. Those are coins that I won in awards for setting up processes. I missed out on being promoted to like a GS-12 position and these are positions I created through process systems I set up with my entrepreneur type mind, right? And I missed those opportunities because my reputation is LT's a drunk and he doesn't show up to work anymore. And when he does show up to work, he stinks like whiskey, So that's the piece of crap I became. 2019, I called my dad. Kind of crazy that he's back in my life for this moment. He takes me to a detox center. I sleep in detox for 2 nights, and I check myself into a rehab for about 6 months. So those are the 2 stints I had. Early 2000s, meth became a piece of crap monster. Alcohol became a piece of crap, neglectful father and husband. Not to mention worker, employee, society, brother, son.
And that's the 6 months when you decided no more.
Everything's got to change. So go ahead.
What was when I think of recovery, sometimes I think of like this euphoria moment, right? Where it's just, I think of movies, right? Where the camera's going into someone's mind and then there's like this flashback of, well, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that. And it could have been this way. Did you have like a euphoria moment?
Yeah, I call it the click.
Okay.
But it's a paradigm shift, I guess you could say, right?
Sure.
So I go to rehab, and I'm 47 days sober. I think I got all the answers now. I just screwed up, guys. I got this. So I go get 3 shots of whiskey, just a little half a pint from the liquor store. Imagine what my wife and kids are feeling after watching me for 5 years be a belligerent piece of mean garbage, right? I'm going to drink this pint of whiskey when I want to. I'm going to do it on my terms because I'm going to prove to everybody I am in control. I can control this stuff. So I do that. I take my 3 shots at night. Nothing crazy happens. I go back to my rehab. I tell on myself, hey, I took 3 shots of whiskey, and let me tell you why, because I needed to prove to myself and to everybody else that I am not powerless. I do have control. And my counselor looks at me and says, so you went to detox because you got a drinking problem. You came here because you got a drinking problem. Your life is in shambles because you have a drinking problem. And now you're going to drink to prove you don't have a drinking problem. Whack! I haven't had a drink since.
Wow.
Yeah. Logic slapped me upside the head. A big plate of humble pie right in front of me, and I started eating.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And I never looked back after that. So you take the fragileness of life. I watched my son almost die. I'm 40 years old at the time. I'm contemplating the finiteness and how fast time goes. We're here on earth and we're just vapors. We're here for a minute and then we vanish. And generations before us, and there'll be generations after us. It's fast, right? And then I'm thinking, I heard this thing on the radio, and it was like, if you were to write your eulogy right now, what would it say? And I'm like, oh, God. Would my wife have to get up and read a eulogy that's a complete lie? Like, he was a great father and a great worker, because that would be a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking of what my eulogy would be. And I'm like, I can't die and have that written about me. My kids ain't going to get up above my casket and say anything they're proud of right now. One of my kids went, so I have an ex-wife who I have children with. Both of them went to Washington to live with her right towards the end of my alcoholism because of my alcoholism. Right? I've chased off 2 of my kids. My wife and I are about to get divorced, and my 2 younger kids don't want nothing to do with me because they don't know what dad was walking through the door. Mm-hmm. That's what my eulogy should have said. Piece of shit. If I were to die at that point in my life. And so I thought, this last half of my life, I'm going to rewrite my eulogy. I'm going to live in a manner that in X amount of years, or whenever I die, Lord willing I die in my mid-80s, whatever, right?
Sure.
That when my eulogy is written, he loved his wife. He loved his kids, and his kids loved him. He gave back to society and made an effect on people. He did things that was unselfish. He gave, he helped, and he was involved. And he was no longer a self-centered piece of crap. And I want to rewrite my eulogy.
Well, now it's recorded. So now unfortunately, when you do die, guess what it's going to write?
Yeah.
You have to get a big old stone for that, but that's just fine.
Yeah.
That's just fine. Let's talk a little bit more about your recovery.
Okay.
For me.
Ask me anything you want.
So you got the recovery. How hard was it?
Very hard.
Yes.
When you habitually do something for years, habits take like 68 days to ingrain into your routine, right? And if your routine is injecting poison into your body, slamming it through, I don't care if you're injecting it through your veins, you're smoking, sniffing, or drinking it, and you're doing this for 5 years or more, you're not going to change in 30 days. You're not going to change in 60 days. You're not going to change in 90 days. That's what's wrong with rehabs right now. Okay, 30, 60, 90-day models, there are good people in it with good intentions. But you're not going to break these habits on top of the trauma that needs to be dealt with, on top of the post-acute withdrawal that you're going to go through. So it was extremely difficult. I look in the mirror, I'm completely overweight. I'm like 50 pounds overweight. I've become a weakling. I can barely pick up 20 pounds. I'm all of a sudden feeling my emotions. I'm thinking about a girl that I passed a pipe to who was 8 months pregnant. I'm thinking about fights my wife and I got into, and that's the ones I can remember. She can remember the fights that we were in that I don't remember. And now I've traumatized her, so I'm not the only one that has to heal. We still have a relationship that's habitually on guard and eggshells in accordance with my alcoholism. We have to heal from that. To change all that was extremely difficult. On top of that, my mind is telling me, drink. It's good. Remember how good it felt? Oh, guess what? You're addicted to sugar because you were drinking so much whiskey. Mm-hmm. And so now you got a sugar addiction and your mind is in shambles. Like it's the mind F word, right? It's extremely difficult at first, but you have to stay the course. So is it hard? Yes.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs and you don't have to know this.
Where are you at? Like how long has it been since you started recovery? Do temptations ever come up?
So they get less and less and few and far between, right? at first it's multiple times a day. First year of recovery is very tough. If you can get through that first year, you're gold. Keep it up and don't stop doing what you're doing to get you there. Second year, it starts spacing out. But today, I'm 4.5 years clean. My last 3 shots of whiskey was on October 5th, 2019. Every once in a blue moon, I get the fantasy thoughts of like, I'll be able to sit in the backyard with a glass of whiskey on ice and watch the sun go down and relax. Every once in a while that happens. Sometimes I'm really creative. I like to edit. I like to play music. I play drums and bass. I would like to smoke a joint and jam.
Yeah.
And they're very quick. They're fleeting. They're in and out of my mind quickly, but they're still there. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it, any of all of that. But it's not what it used to be because I've worked a program that has solidified tools. I've built a support system that I can lean on. I've changed everything in my life. I quit my job on base. Okay, people thought I was nuts. Wait a minute, you've been on Hill Air Force Base for 10 years. You have this much of a retirement built up. You have these many benefits. You get all this time off. You're making this much money, and you're going to quit to do YouTube? You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
I did all that for my recovery. I heard Kelsey telling Cody when we got here, like, the stuff that she's doing, she has to, or we were watching your video. Either you said it out loud or we were watching your video. She puts herself in a position where recovery is a lifestyle now. And that's what I've had to do with mine. I've put myself in leadership positions inside of a recovery community so that my life now has to be lived above reproach. I can't make mistakes. There's people that relying on me. And I look at my wife and kids first, you know, and then my church, my local church. I'm not LDS, by the way.
Sure.
And then my community and my groups and my businesses and the people that work with me, like Kelsey and Aubrey and Andy and my son's Island. I want to be a good ripple effect to all those people because the ripple of your negative affects your family. They hit rock bottom before you do. But if you do the flip side and you start taking care of yourself, my best gift to you, say with me and you become best friends.
Just the bestest of friends.
Bestest of friends. We high five all the time, that kind of stuff. My best gift I can give you is my own self-development. If I become the best person I can be, I become the wisest man I can be, I become the most humble, I become the most empathetic, that's going to build our relationship even better. So my goal is to build myself up. And it seems selfish, right? Recovery's selfish, and you got to take care of yourself. Absolutely. If I take care of myself in the best way and I become the best person I can be, it'll affect you in a positive way.
Yeah, you can't help someone else when you're in shambles.
Agreed.
Right. There's no possible way. You have to build yourself up. You have to make yourself better. And you're right. You could look at it in a selfish way for sure, but you have to do what's the best for you, right? Because you can't help someone take a step forward when you're taking 5 steps back.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for interviewing me. That was fun.
Is there anything else you wanna add?
If you have any questions, if you heard anything you would like, a question you think these young people might benefit from.
There's one question.
Okay.
We'll hurry up real quick with it, but
I'll take care of that in just a sec.
Fentanyl. Fentanyl is
Oh Lord.
Is extremely bad. Can you hand me my phone just real quick? Yeah. I took this off the internet, so who knows if it's freaking true. But the amount of fentanyl has just inclined. According to this website, which I don't know who it is, so don't mark me on that. 2014, there was, in year's death, there was under 10,000, right?
Yep.
It skyrocketed from there.
Yeah.
And the year before that, 2022, it went to approximately 73,000 deaths per year, right?
And it's more than that now.
It's still inclining.
It's
immensely.
Yep. And now there's xylazine on top of that. So you want to know my thoughts on fentanyl?
Absolutely.
Drugs are not like they used to be back in my day.
Okay.
Weed was dirty. Weed had seeds and stems.
Yeah.
It doesn't anymore. It could be laced with fentanyl. You could smoke a joint and die. You can go get meth. And meth isn't what it used to be back in the early 2000s. Meth was meth, right? You didn't have to worry about sniffing it. Today, you go get meth, you could sniff a line and die.
Yeah.
That goes for anything drug-related out there. Heroin. You think you're doing heroin. Boom. Fentanyl. And you die. Fentanyl is horrible.
Yeah.
It is. I've been dealing in the counseling position with recovery for 4 years now. I'm a certified peer support specialist. I'm a certified relapse prevention specialist now. I watch alcoholics get clean. I watch meth addicts get clean. I watch heroin, opiate, and fentanyl addicts get clean, and they have the hardest time. And do you know why you don't see an old heroin addict?
Why?
Because they die.
Wow, that makes sense.
It's horrible. Fentanyl. You cannot do drugs today.
Yeah.
Today, this day and age, drugs are off limits because they literally will kill you. You're gambling. You're with your life now.
100%. It's crazy being in law enforcement. When we go do any kind of searches that we do, we always make sure we have gloves on, right? Because it's 2 milliliters
Oh, dude.
of actual pure fentanyl,
Like a
which
grain
is
of salt.
It's like if you took two grains of salt right there.
Yes.
Like you said, you touch it with your thumb, dead 10 minutes.
Good Lord.
Right? You there's a possibility that you could be dead in 10 minutes. It's
Yeah.
like you don't call the hospital, you call your mom, because
Oh, Lord.
who knows?
It's like
right?
getting bit by a snake.
But they obviously use fentanyl in hospitals. I'm pretty sure they put them in IVs, I believe, right? But it's extremely diluted,
Right.
Just from those 2 grains of fentanyl, extremely diluted in a big bag of IV.
Yep.
Because it's that strong of a drug,
Right.
And I want to show people not even to get anywhere near drugs, right? Because I know it starts little and it goes up, but then, like you said, new drugs aren't like the old ones,
No.
like they used to be. They got fentanyl in them. They think they're doing heroin, and then they die.
Right.
Right.
See that picture right there? That's
Yeah.
a reminder. That girl in the middle,
Yeah.
she's dead.
Okay.
That reminds me when I'm sitting here working and I glance up at that picture of how deadly fentanyl is. And she's not the only one that I've dealt with in this circle of recovery who just couldn't get it, takes a shot, and dies. Wow. It's deadly. You're playing Russian roulette. You really are. You're loading up one bullet in a chamber in a gun, and you're spinning it, and you're putting the gun to your head, and you're pulling the trigger. Anytime you do any type of drug this day and age, that's my opinion, because somehow fentanyl has made its way in everything. Like you said, it's so small, and they can do it in such mass quantities. And thank you for your service as an officer. To be a police officer this day and age is so dangerous. You're getting such backlash from society and the way people need to be treated. Drug addicts are criminals, and they need to be treated as such at the time. The whole system needs to be reformed, and we could have an hour-long conversation about that. But I want to say thank you for what you do, because you are keeping society safe when you are putting yourself, like you said, at the potential danger of touching a piece of fentanyl that somebody had in their pocket and dying because that person made bad choices. And you've kept me safe doing that, so thank you.
Well, I appreciate it.
And I hope I speak for a lot of you out there.
Thank you, LT, for this interview.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it quite a bit.
Yeah, that was fun. Anything else?
No, I think
All
we're
right.
good. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Until next time. Do not put yourself in a high-risk situation. Stay strong, work your programs, and remember, we recover better together.
Do I have to remember that for next time? We recover better together. Is that it? That's my motto. Okay, I'll try to start saying that.